My name is David Bruggeman, and I'm recording my assignment for CS683, Mobile Application Development. This is an affordability calculator. What it does is looks at the consumer's down payment and monthly income and determines how much mortgage that they can afford. So in order to implement this, what I did is I created 5 fields: down payment amount, monthly income, loan term, which you can see here. There's few options. The term could be a 30-year, 20-year, or 15-year. Interest rate they would expect to be getting, and then whether they have good or bad credit. Now, I also implemented some error handling. If you click calculate, it'll give you a message. So on the back end, what I'm doing is I'm stopping and returning to the screen and displaying an error immediately below the box. So I'll go ahead and solve that. I'll put $10,000. And then the monthly income, let me go ahead. So now I've resolved this error. This error will appear. I'll go ahead and put 5,000 and then run my calculation. So here's my results. So at the top, I actually have a banner. This will link off to bankrate.com. It will not show if there's no access to the internet. And I'm showing here that the customer can afford a $200,000 home with a $190,000 loan amount. Their payment would be $801, and this is based on what they've provided, which is $5,000 down payment, credit rating of good, monthly income of $5,000, interest rate of 3, 30-year term. So I've got a lot of formatting going on here with the numbers to make sure it's normal presentation. So if they did want to see a little bit more about this and perhaps see what it would look like to actually pay each year, what their interest and principal and ending loan balance could be, they could click and do an amortization schedule. So what I've done on the back end is I've actually passed all 8 values that you saw on the previous screen to this screen. And so that way I'm keeping track of the data. Again, I have the banner at the top. Here's the amount that these calculations are based on, which is a loan amount of 190, payment of 801, interest rate of 3%. And then I did a calculation here. I'm displaying all the information. You can see the year here for the first 15 years. I put it in this box to give it a little bit of better formatting. And on the back end, this is a nested for loop, which is going through 12 times and then keeping that 15 times and storing it in an array. If I wanted to go back to the affordability results, I could click and I could see my previous screen. So now I've passed back all 8 values to that screen, and if the customer wanted to see something else, perhaps change the values, they could. And I'll go ahead and change it slightly. I'll say that I have, instead of good credit, I'll change the interest rate to be 5%, and then I'll say I have bad credit. And then you see the results are quite a bit different. So the actual calculation is determining whether you can put a down payment of 5% if you have good credit, but you have to put a down payment of 20% if you have bad credit. And I'll allow you to have 40% of your income going for the mortgage payment. If you have good credit, it's only 30% if you have bad credit. And then I do have in the Java comparing both of those and actually, based on the 2 constraints, taking the most constraining factor, and that's what actually drives the final results. So if I take a look at the actual code here, a few things I'll point out. So this is my input screen here. I do have going on in this one, you can see it's a linear layout I've decided to use for all of this because of the nature of what I was displaying. But if you notice here, we have a linear layout, but inside we actually have a linear layout going the opposite direction in order to create an even grid structure here. So on the Java, a lot of Java on this particular one, but I have defined my values up front. I have the spinner going on here, defining the spinner for each one of these 3 spinners that I have. Here's the error handling I was describing, where if it's empty, that they haven't provided a value in the down payment, you'll see that we'll return this error that says enter a down payment amount. And then actually, once you resolve the error, you can see I actually pass back 0 if I need, or blank if needed, which would be resolving the error in the case that, for example, this one was solved but this one wasn't. Then I actually pass back a blank. we'll see here if there's anything else worth. So here's the monthly payment calculation. This one's actually, you can see here I put a little bit of a note as to what's actually going on. It's actually kind of a complicated calculation to determine the monthly payment. And then I have here looking at calculating the constraint based on down payment and the constraint based on income, and that gets resolved. A comparison actually occurs. And then here's my formatting that I have. And affordability results. This here is similar to the other screen in terms of the way the linear layouts are behaving. Affordability results. This one actually doesn't have any calculations to this particular screen. It's just displaying the information. But you see I'm capturing all the values here. I do have to create some formatting here because these three, payment, loan amount, and income are used. Actually, those ones aren't used. Some of them are used. Oh, interest. So I have to actually have some formatting here. Not all the values can be passed directly. Here's the banner logic that actually shows if there's no connection, then I'm in this case the button will show, but else if it's not, if there's no connection, then the banner actually disappears. And then this is my logic to pass to the input screen, which doesn't have to pass any values, but to pass to the amortization screen, I pass everything. And that has to be, all of them have to be passed because it's not going to be saved on the screen, even though I don't actually need most of these. Okay, amortization results screen. So this is the most complicated screen because I have a lot of data to display. But this is there's 4 in here, and then there's only 2 here, so there's a different presentation. But these are all linear layout through the whole thing, and then the banner is at the top. Amortization calculator. So this actually is the one I was mentioning earlier, is using the nested for loop. So here's the for loop, and here's the inner for loop. So it's running through to calculate all the values. It's storing them in an array in order to. So I actually have 3 arrays, and it's storing all the values in an array. So this would be where it's storing principal and interest, and then here's where it stores the balance. Balance only needs to be done once, but these ones will have to go through 12 times. This one's only once, so then it goes through 12 times here, and then it'll do that for 15 times. So it actually goes through the loop 180 times to calculate all the values. And then I'm displaying it back to the screen here for year 1, year 2, year 3. It's actually a lot of repeated code to display back to the screen. I have to do that down 15 times. Here's the banner. Opens bank. This is the same logic as the previous screen that I showed, which was that if there's no connection, then it'll pass and the button will show. Otherwise, the button won't show. And the banner, I described it as a banner earlier. It is just a button. I could have changed that, I guess, and made it an image, but a button is sufficient for the text that I'm trying to show. And then here's the web page that I'll link to, which is just bankrate.com. I could place something else. If I had actually been creating this as a commercial product, this here would probably have some codes associated with it, and it would be considered more like an affiliate, and then I would be sending traffic to Bankrate and getting paid on the transactions that people do on Bankrate. And then here's to pass back to the input and pass back to the affordability results screen. That's pretty much it there. So here's the manifest. So these are the permissions that I'll need in order for displaying the banner. I have to get internet access, and I have to get access to the network state. And then here's the information about defining the extra screens that I have, because I have this main screen, but I also have these two other screens. And then on the strings in this case I'm just using for the spinners. So here are the strings. And then just one more look at the calculator again, now that I've described that. So I'll walk through it one more time. So here, let's say again 10,000, we'll say 5,000. This time, why don't we say a loan term of 20 years, we'll go 20 years. And then we'll say 4% interest, and we'll keep it a good credit. And then here's our result. So this one is 200,000. Payment's a little bit higher than it was in the previous screen, which would probably indicate that this is down payment constrained. Click to amortization schedule, and here you go. Here's the amortization schedule for the first 15 years. And then here's the banner. If I click, this actually works on my, oh, there it is. It's linking off to the web page. A little slow, but it works better on my actual physical device. All right, and there you go. Thank you. This has been a fun project. Enjoyed the freedom that I had to really run with a certain idea. This idea, I actually 15 years ago used to work as a product manager in the financial services industry, and I created some of these. It was actually quite rewarding to be able to now be on the other side actually coding the entire application. And it was a great class, learned a lot, really enjoyed it, and I was proud of the work that I was able to do. Thank you.